Thank you, sir. Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good questions. Mr. Agnew, what is FirstNet's presence in rural, tribal, and remote areas of New Mexico, and is coverage there truly sufficient?
Thank you for that question, Senator. We need continued build out. While New Mexico has received significant build out per the FirstNet program, there's more work that needs to be done, and there's a couple things that are being done. As I mentioned, the coverage workshops, where new sites are going to be built based off of your first responders. Additionally, we make available deployables so they can pull out their own coverage. We make it highly affordable, small form factors so they can deploy coverage where it doesn't exist. Finally, as I mentioned before, the partnership with AST, that is going to fill out much of the white space that is in Nebraska, or sorry, New Mexico, apologize. That is where we're going to be able to provide a layered approach to deliver that connectivity for New Mexico.
Mr. Agnew, if you don't have the percentage of the state that's covered or where the holes are, you could just respond to that one in writing. New Mexico is one of the first states that adopted into FirstNet, if I'm not mistaken. We're one of the early adopters.
Yes.
We still have holes, man. I can tell you where I drive, where phones don't work, and I've got them all.
Right.
When I talk to local law enforcement agencies, you know, some of my CDS comes from trying to help local law enforcement agencies. There's a fire chief that lives in a canyon, and once he gets past a certain mile marker, you can't find him. You cannot find him. You can't even bounce off of radios to get to this family. And this is in a mountainous area where a little fire kills people, devastates homes. And so I'm really interested here. And, you know, with that being said, I'd be happy to work with the chair to look at the holes that exist across America in rural communities, and so that we can just get a better understanding of success, measuring success every year that we deploy, how we do better. Mr. Davis, same question to you.
Yeah, Senator, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, we're proud to support nearly 61% of the first responders in New Mexico. I know those challenges very well. I actually have a home in northern New Mexico and spend a lot of time there. You know, some of the things that we're doing a lot of the similar things. And I think what's important to understand here, at the end of the day, there is no separate network. There is no separate commercial. There is one commercial carrier that is providing these services for public safety. There are multiple carriers that are doing that today. I think that's important. That's why we're here. So if FirstNet is getting funding, we're looking at additional $15 billion over the next 25 years of the term, and they are to put a tower in that canyon. That tower should be able to cover all the public safety providers, not just AT&T customers. Because what we've seen in national outages and what we've seen in recent times is when there's an AT&T outage, FirstNet is out too. So there is no separate network, and everything is riding on AT&T's commercial network. And I think that's a good reminder for us and a good reminder for rural coverage that we all have to work together. And that's why it's important that we have competition in the marketplace.
Mr. Agnew, let me ask you a question that I presented earlier. Does technology exist today where if a first responder buys a phone, a communication device, can they ride all three networks with subscriptions? Or do they have to buy a phone from each
No.
Carrier?
So thank you for that question, Senator. Today, the technology does exist where phones can use multiple SIM cards from carriers as well as routers.
But do they have to change the SIM card out, or does it just work?
There's two options. The routers just work. The SIM cards, there's a configuration, but it's very simple to do, and it's very standard from a public safety perspective to have multiple SIMs within a specific device.
Sheriff, I'm clearly talking about something I don't understand, because I see several heads in the room, not in either against me or with Mr. Agnew here, if you will. Is this widely known? Are we seeing agencies across the country because look, when I'm back home and I'm talking to folks, they're rolling with 3-4 phones, man. And is this widely known? Because it sounds like it'd be a savings.
Well, I've got 3 phones, so I'm not sure how that helps. No, I mean, pragmatically, yes, it is widely known. It is well known, and it's not uncommon for agencies. When you hear these folks talking about the number of agencies, 40,000 agencies, we got 30,000 agencies. Well, maybe my math's not that good, but there's a limited number of public safety agencies in this country, right? Yeah. The reality of it is many organizations use multiple lines based on what's in their best need. And you're never going to hear the authority, the board, tell somebody to go away from a service if we're not able to provide it yet. I don't want, Rousseau said it perfect, right? Which is don't let perfect be the enemy of better. We're getting there, but we're not going to endanger somebody's life by telling you to drop your service when we're not providing adequate service yet. The goal is to get to providing adequate service, but to your major point, it is not uncommon for people to use multiple lines.
Amen to that. Last question that well, my time's expired here, so please respond. Just a follow-up that I have is, if you could respond to me, both Mr. Agnew and Mr. Davis, is if law enforcement knows that there's a hole somewhere and they have a subscription to either of you, what do they do to report to you all that there's a hole?
Right.
Side by side to that, if I have a constituent that goes and buys a phone based on the maps that you all presented, and the phone don't work,
Right.
what do they need to do to respond to the company to say, hey, the map said I have coverage here, I don't have coverage, you need to fix this? So if you all could
Sure.
respond to that.
Very quickly, the direct relationships between the FirstNet consultants and your public safety agencies, that there's a direct relationship there to report the coverage, also with the FirstNet Authority and those covered workshops to document it, and then we subsequently provide updates. We are accountable, we're bound by the contract to provide those updates. We're bound by the contract to provide that build-out plan. So it's full awareness, and if there's any public safety officials in your state that are not aware of that, please let them know that it is available to them.
I appreciate that. Madam Chair, I'm reminded of that app that the FCC created when they were trying to fix these maps that were horrible. I used it a time or two when devices weren't working. I just don't know if something equivalent exists or still exists for the others. So that's what I'm looking to just try to help more folks, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. In fact, I was going to follow up with it before I recognize Senator Sullivan on the maps that are available to the FCC and to